Welcome back to OpenLine. We are talking with the Vice Mayor, Jim Shulman, newly elected Vice Mayor, and Mike Jamison, Director of the Metro Council, talking about all things involving the Metro Council. Well, we spent the first segment here talking about the Community Oversight Board. This board just approved by voters. Now the council has the job of selecting the people who will be on this board. The charter amendment specified several things. And as we went to break, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Mike Jamison, is it says economically distressed areas. Several of these members, 4 I believe, is that right, have to come from economically distressed areas. How do you define that?
So as you look at the language of the charter amendment as a whole, and assuming the language was prepared by proponents that wanted this, it's clear that they wanted a majority board that came from the community. So they have the majority of the 11 members, 7 either coming by virtue of community organizations or by petition. And of those 7, 4 do have to come, as the charter language says, from economically distressed communities, and that term is not defined. So what we have done is the Metro Planning Department, which often has to implement programs geared towards economically distressed communities, does that through about a total of 5 separate federal programs. Everything from HUD, Housing Urban Development, free and reduced lunch programs. So there are various areas within federal statutory law where we can take their definitions of economically distressed community and apply it. Now, none of those were referred to in the charter language, so we're just going to use all of them. The planning department has mapped out the areas of town that refers to, and then they will, quite literally, for all of the nominations we get where the individual indicates that he does live in an economically distressed community, the planning department will go through and say, for Mr. Smith, who makes this claim, he fills this definition, not that definition, but these other 2 definitions. And then council members will have a pretty good, solid background for being able to say this person meets that criteria or not.
So you are having to define what an economically distressed area is.
Well, we can't add words that aren't in the charter amendment. All we can do is try to enable the council as best as we can under the circumstances to provide them with potential definitions that they can use in their own selection.
So, Vice Mayor, how potentially contentious could this get? The council is going to have to select, again, 11 members. We have 23 so far. We've thrown out the number 50. It could be more or less, whatever. Right. But how do you envision an argument over, well, so-and-so is not really from an economically distressed area?
You know, I certainly hope not. We have stressed, we announced that the whole process, not at the council meeting last night, but council meeting 2 weeks ago. And then we went back through some of it last night. Kind of in a move, maybe unprecedented, but 2 meetings ago, 2 weeks ago, I actually read the entire process that we're going to use into the record. And then we took our time to make sure that council members could ask questions. We did the same. We didn't read the whole thing last night. They have the process, but we took questions again to make sure that people understand it. I certainly hope not. I think the idea is that we're going to take our time so that if we get 50 nominations, if we get 23 nominations, if we get 300 nominations, this may take some time to do, but the idea is don't rush. Let's make sure we vet this correctly. And if we run into a situation, obviously Mr. Jamison is here. We're going to have people, you know, watching this process to make sure that we do this correctly. I'm certainly hoping that we don't have big fights over, well, wait a minute, that person doesn't come from an economically distressed community or doesn't reside there. The same thing with a community organization. That's not defined in the charter language either. So, you know, Rotary Club nominates somebody, okay, community organization. The Donaldson Bowling League, that could be a community organization as well. Mm-hmm. So again, we're watching that charter amendment language and making sure that we follow it, and hopefully we won't have too many conflicts over it.
Very interesting. Okay, let's take some calls here, and there's the number at the bottom if you want to call in, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We have Ann, who has been waiting a while. Ann, hello?
Hi. I just wanted to let people know that if they were interested, there was a workshop Saturday at the American Baptist College. I believe it's from 10 to 12. I know they can get the information off the Community Oversight Now website, but it's a workshop on applying for any of the positions on the Community Oversight Board for people that are interested in applying. So if they have questions and they want information, they could go to this workshop.
Oh, great. Who's putting that on?
I'm not exactly sure for this one, but it's an informational, open to the public, and so
okay.
There's you some information.
Well, Ann, thank you very much.
That is helpful from the standpoint that we reached out to, when we did this with council members, we actually said pass the word. Because what I said before, community organizations is not defined. So it's not like we have a list of community organizations we can send a notice to and say, you know, if you want to nominate somebody, you got to get it in by December 18th at 4:30 p.m. There are thousands and thousands of community organizations, depending on how you define it. And so things like what Ann's talking about is a good thing. Passes the word.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Let's go to Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. What's on your mind? Go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's a hard decision, and I think we have the right group of people that are basically going to see this through. I don't mean to make it complicated, but I have a couple of suggestions. I hope, and I just want to say it. Would there be any age limitation on who can be on the board? Will the people that are selected have to undergo a psychological like they do at the police academy? That way they're basically like police officers. They have to go through the same kind of, evaluation. And the biggest thing I have is, would they be willing to go and stay until a decision is made instead of prolonging it? Because it seems like the reason we got in this situation is because it took so long to make a decision. Can they make a decision without leave?
What do you mean make a decision without leaving? Do you understand that?
It's like once they're presented like a grand jury, they basically, when they have all the facts, they can say, okay, we're not leaving until we make a decision. We're not going to prolong this.
Well, you want a board that acts quickly, basically.
Yeah,
right?
It was the same day they hear the facts, they make a decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Wayne. All right. So there are several questions. He's asking about the age. Is there any sort of, there's no guidance on
no
age
limit, no language in the charter amendment with respect to age.
There's certainly, he's asking about a psychological evaluation like police officers take. There's
no
nothing
requirement.
like that.
Nope. And the third item about let's hope they stay and get the decision executed that day. All the council is essentially doing is putting in the first roster of the 11 members, essentially for a 1-year term. They'll eventually have 3-year terms, but it'll be up to the board once they're in place to decide upon which seat is going to have a 1-, 2-, and 3-year term for staggering purposes going forward. They'll also elect a chair, they'll determine what their operating rules are, and they may have operating rules that include, once we have taken a case, we are not leaving the room until a decision is rendered. They'll have what their voting processes are, what a majority vote means, what a quorum is. That will be up to the board once they're in place. The council does not predetermine that.
So that's certainly not in the charter. The council won't say that. It could be up to the board itself, could make some of those determinations.
And that's typical for the way boards and commissions are created. We do want to leave it up to the members themselves to set their own destiny, so to speak.
All right, let's go to David. Hello, David. Are you there, David?
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes, my question is the Metro Council not involved in the execution of the Charter Amendment? And if they were involved in that, why did they not question any ambiguities or terminologies that they do not understand? Why was that not questioned before the charter was finally approved?
Okay. All right.
I think the question is, and David's got a good question, he's talking about the ambiguities of the language. So there are different ways to get amendments on the ballot. When people voted this last November, there were a series of charter amendments on the ballot. The first one, amendment number 1, was this one. That amendment got on the ballot because enough people signed a petition to get it on the ballot. The rest of them actually came from the council. There were a series, I think there were 5 that were submitted by council members, were taken up to the Charter Revision Commission to take a look at, came back to the council, and the council had sufficient votes to put it on. Those are ours. And with the help of the council members, with the help of Mr. Jameson, we try to draft that language so that it's as clear as we can think. The first one, and again, it passed, so I'm not saying anything bad about it, but there are some ambiguities, and I think the people who drafted it understand that. I think the council office understands that as well, and at some point may have to go back and fix some of the ambiguities, like what is an economically distressed community, what is a community organization, those types of things. But I think David's question was on, and that was the ambiguities. How come we didn't catch them? Again, it wasn't the council's. It was a proposed amendment that simply got enough people to sign that petition, and it got on exactly the way it was written.
That's interesting. Yes, there was a fight. There's no doubt there was a fight to get it on, and it made it. It got the number of signatures required, and it's on there. And certainly that was part of the debate and when it came time for the election about, is this written properly and is this the right one? And bottom line, the voters said yes.
That's right.
And so now it's up to the council to implement it. All right, we have to take a break. We have Lucy, Brian, others on the line. Hold on, we'll get to your call. And if you want to call in, there's the number at the bottom, 615-737+. Take a break, be back right after this.